All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. This is our Second Avenue Subway Task Force. We have an echo. Today is October 28th, and it's 6:41. I apologize.
You hear a mic.
I'm when you're late. My apologies for my late. Now you gotta turn off the speaker. Be very sad. It happens to.
It's a cut water.
Right. We have. Okay. So we're gonna do some ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Raise your hand through Zoom, click on the participants icon, and you will find the raise hand function there. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. Chair will recognize the next person to speak. The chat should not be used to discuss or pose questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. I'm gonna repeat that one. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subject on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. You know, sometimes I repeat that in my sleep because I say it too often. All right, we're gonna do a roll call.
Committee members, when I call your name, please answer. Present, Jose Altamirano,
President.
Leslie Colon, Rosa Diaz,
Present.
Jennifer Meyer,
Present.
Nelson Arama, Beverly Pabon,
Present.
No,
Nelson
Rodriguez.
present.
Asher Rodriguez, Jeffrey Santiago, Jason Villanueva, Candy Vivas Vasquez.
Present.
So we have four.
Perfect. We
I
have.
don't know if you heard me present, Nilsa.
We heard you,
Thank
Nelson.
you.
And we have our chair, Dan Brihar, with us tonight. For those of you who don't know him. And we have a special guest. Our very own brand new Southern Dash. I'm sorry. No worries. Good. Thank you. Great. Good job with tonight's agenda. Mission. Against. Perfect. Did we get the last month's minutes in? Do you want to approve those? Or do we want to do that next one? I believe they're right. Well, I can see if anyone raises their hand, but
No. Do it next one.
next month, all right. Hold on. Hey, Jason. Y'all want to lose windows? No, it's not yet. All right. So we move forward, as you know, this particular task force is about Second Avenue Subway, so it's especially Joe has his whole team here, it looks amazing, Carrie's here, Uptown Grand Central. See you always. So should we start with an update and then we'll go to questions? I don't think we need we'll let you have the floor first, Joe.
Sure. From here.
Yeah, please.
Angel, you have a presentation?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Presentation, everything, no.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously we met with you all last month and we went through a pretty detailed level setting of what the project is all about, especially the first two contracts. So we'll dispense with some of those upfront items, to try to keep this tighter moving forward in addressing the issues that we discussed from meeting to meeting and any new issues that may come up in between. For those of you online and some of you in the room who may not know me, my name is Joe O'Donnell. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for MTA Construction and Development, we are the portion or the arm of the MTA that's building the Second Avenue Subway Project Phase 2. Up here in East Harlem with 3 brand new ADA accessible stations, one at 106, one at 116th, and an additional station underneath the existing 125th Street and Lex line. Next slide. So I'm gonna go over a bit of an agenda here, so a brief overview, some of which I just gave you, status and timeline of the contracts that are presently underway, some of the key elements and operations that are underway beneath those contracts, namely building demolition, traffic lane shift, the work contract 1. Provide an update on signage, which was a hot topic last meeting, discussion of the ancillary buildings, at the community engagement, and then any questions that the board and the public may have. Next slide. So just again, this project is going to build 3 brand new stations. It's broken up into 4 contracts. Presently, we have contract 1 working from 104th Street to 112th, just south of 112th on Second Avenue. That is the early utility relocation project, as well as doing some building stabilization. Contract 2 is already working as well. That's a bit north of contract 1 from 114th Street to 125th, and then west to just past Malcolm X Boulevard. Not only will that project be tasked with mining the tunnels from 120th Street to 125th Street and then west of Malcolm X Boulevard with 2 tunnel boring machines. They'll also be retrofitting the existing 116th Street station, or the tunnels that were constructed in the 1970s and retrofitting that and building it out into the eventual 116th Street station. We are excited about the fact that we have, I guess, passed a hurdle with our friends in the federal government and unstuck the money that was designed to be the federal match for this project. So in the last couple of weeks, we just awarded, we had gotten, by the time we had spoken to you last month, we had gotten approval from our board to go ahead and award that contract, but we were holding off actually awarding contract 3 until we had confidence that money was coming. That money is in fact has been unfrozen, so we have awarded contract 3, and that contract will soon start ramping up. Contract 3 is for the build out of the 106th Street station area and the tunnels. I mentioned that we're going to be boring new tunnels from 120th north and then eventually west. We can't use tunnel boring machines in the southern portion of the alignment because of the geography there, the geology rather, underneath the ground. It's a lot of soft earth and not hard rock that we can bore through, as well as needing to match up with the existing 96th Street station and the tail tracks there up to 104th Street. So because of the elevation of those tracks and the geology there, we're going to have to do what is called cut and cover and mine those tunnels for the 106th Street station from the top down. Next slide. So these are the 3 contracts in white that have already been awarded. I've already mentioned that. CAC was awarded, CAC Industries was awarded contract 1 in 2024. That contract is set to wrap up in Q1 of 2027. Contract 2, which is that tunnel boring and retrofitting of the 116th Street station, that was Connect Plus Partners. That was awarded in August of 2025. That is currently underway. And we just awarded in Q2 of 2026, contract 3 to Skanska Walsh Trailer, and that is for the build out of the 106th Street station. That contract is largely going to follow on in the footprint of contract 1. So a lot of the areas that you see presently occupied in contract 1, contract 3 will eventually take over as contract 1 looks to wrap up their work and back out of that. And then contract 4 TBD, but that will be for the station entrances, the communications, signals, power, etc., all the things to make the train actually go. And that's TBD on award for that, probably sometime in 2020, late 2027 or possibly 2028. But we've got some time for that. Next, some of the things that we were following up on from last meeting. There was a request for an update on the 120th Street and Second Avenue demolition schedule. We'll talk a little bit about where we are exactly in that process. But we are still scheduled for completion the last week of May. When I say completion, the demo will be done probably the first or second week of May. But then we'll be taking all of the demolished materials, the debris out of there, as well as leveling and grading that area for eventual use, and then, the launch box for the tunnel boring machine. But a little bit more on that in a bit. As far as contract, number of local hires, contracts 2, 3, and 4 on this project all have a local hiring goal attached to them. They have a 20% of the New York State local workforce is required to be obtained or procured from the local area. So what that means is if we've got 1,000 people who are gonna be hired from the New York State area, 20% of those, or 200, would need to have to come from the local area. We define the local area as where the project is actually being delivered. That's tier, the first objective. The second tier would be within 25 miles of the local project area and in what we have identified or is already been identified as economically disadvantaged areas. And then from there, we can open it up to the entire state. But the first objective is those first and second tiers. Presently, we have 27% of the hours, of all of the hours that have been billed on contract 2 have been by, those workers from that local hiring pool. I do want to caution everybody, the caveat being that only 11% of the contract has been spent down this far. So despite the fact that we're over that 27% or 20% goal, that number will fluctuate. It may go up, may go down. The objective is to keep it above 20% for the life of the project, or certainly for the conclusion of the project. Another topic of hot discussion at the last meeting was signage, particularly the awnings that were removed, along with the open for business signage that the project is installing on behalf of the business owners who have impacts in front of their businesses and their visibility obscured. There are certain instances where we have removed awnings, which were the store owners' personal property, private property. So we are putting up temporary awnings to replace those, as well as the street front signage to let folks know they're open for business. We have met since the last meeting with all of the business owners. The conclusion was, the consensus, in fact, was that the signage that was up there already was not adequate, certainly was not sufficient. So we've gone back to the drawing board and met with all of those owners, and got a better sense of what they would like to have on those signs, and we have mock-ups, draft designs for all of those, which we submit for approval. Anticipation is we would have approval on those designs this week and can get them to the fabricator as early as the end of this week or beginning of next week.
Great.
And then we also brought to our attention that there were some concerns about signage. We have relocated the Second Avenue bike lane to First Avenue, so that there is now a 2-way bike lane between 120th and 103rd or 104th, I believe, on First Avenue. It's 2 ways now. So one of the things that was brought to our attention was folks who were traveling from east of First Avenue may not be familiar and may be walking into oncoming bike traffic unbeknownst to them. So we spoke with DOT about getting signage, additional signage installed along the bike lane there, specifically in the contract 1 area right now. And they have no issue with it. So our team is working with DOT to get that signage installed. If it isn't already installed, I have to double check and confirm whether it is up. Next slide. So just a little bit of an update on contract 1, and I have Michelle Perez with us here, who is the outreach director for CAC Industries. So she's the contractor's representative. So not only have me, but you also have Michelle, as well as the whole outreach team here. Next slide. So some of the work that you see going on here, and that's been going on for quite some time. In the upper left-hand corner, we'll go clockwise from left to right and then across the bottom. In the upper left-hand corner, you have gas main installation at 109th Street. That is a pretty intensive effort now between 109th and 110th on both sides of the street there. On the right-hand side at the top, you see utility installation along Second Avenue. We're doing gas, we're doing electric, we're doing water. Water's largely done. There are still a few pockets of water that need to be completed, but water's largely done. Gas, electric, fiber optic still going on. Lower right-hand corner is gas main installation at 109th Street again. And then lower left, you see sewer pipe installation at Second Avenue. We obviously are working with all of our agency partners who have jurisdiction in these particular utilities. They are the agency AHJ, if you will, agency having jurisdiction. So Con Edison, Verizon, DEP, we all work directly with them, not only for the approval of the work, but the plans and the oversight of this work as well. Next slide. So the schedule for contract one for 2026 is we're gonna continue with all that utility work. We're also gonna start underpinning and strengthening. So where we have identified buildings, some of these buildings are 100 years old and they're built on rubble foundations, which is really just loose rock and mortar. They're not, modern, stable, heavy-duty foundations. So where we've identified buildings that may not, play well with the heavy utility work and then eventually the tunneling and cut and cover work that's gonna be going on here, we are doing underpinning and strengthening of those buildings at the MTA's cost. No cost to the building owner. We're gonna do that work and advance that for them, to make sure that their building, can withstand any work going on proximate to them. So right now, block 1659 on the west side of Second Avenue between 109 and 110, that's ongoing. We anticipate that work will be completed in October. And then we're gonna get going in here in Q2 on block 1655, which is on the west side of Second Avenue between 105 and 106. So that's gonna start in Q2, and that'll wrap up simultaneously with that underpinning work up north from 109 to 110th in October. The utility relocations on both sides, the east and west sides of Second Avenue, gas and electric primarily is ongoing. We estimate completing that by the end of this year. Sewer work on the west side of Second Avenue at 105th, that's ongoing and should be completed in late Q2. There's a whole host of utility work going on the north side of Second Avenue, 6th Street in front of the 4 commercial businesses there, just south of Franklin Plaza Associates. We anticipate being out of there in front of those businesses sometime next month. The sewer work on the west side at 105th, that'll be followed on by water main work just a bit north of East Harlem Tutorial. That is in roughly the same area, but a bit away from the existing entrance to East Harlem Tutorial. That's estimated to start in Q3 of this year and be completed in Q4. Water main, I mentioned there will be some water work that needs to happen later this year. So at Second Avenue and 110th, there is work that will be taking place there and estimated to be completed this quarter. Oilostatic work at 109th and Second Avenue, for those of you who don't know what oilostatic is, that is high electricity cables that go through a conduit that is filled it's filled, but the word I'm trying, what's the proper word, Matthew, help me, it's
Encased?
well, it's not encased, but when you put it, it's insulated with oil. Is the word I was looking for, insulated. So the oil serves as an insulation for the high capacity cable that is going through those conduits. That's starting in a few weeks and expected to be completed in Q3. Next slide. Contract 2. Next slide. Contract 2, as I mentioned, goes from 116 up to 125th and then west to just past Malcolm X Boulevard, where we have an ancillary and tail tracks there. The major operations are for those tunnel boring operations and the excavation of the 125th Street station. And then over here on Second Avenue, the major operations there will be the demolition of buildings on 120th Street, which is underway right now, approximate to PS 96, as well as 3 buildings on Second Avenue proper, south on that same lot, away from the school, closer to 119th Street. Which will eventually be used for the tunnel boring machine launch box. Next slide. So some of the work that's going on, you can see the secant wall coming up out of the ground at 125th Street. The secant wall is a supportive excavation. Again, where we're working in areas that are largely loose earth or soil and not heavy rock, we have to put in supportive excavation walls so that we are not constantly digging out from underneath all the material that collapses in on itself. So there was a lot of secant or supportive excavation work going on at 125th and Lex, and 125th and Park. The lower right-hand side corner, you see the demolition of the building proximate to PS 96. And you see the individual in the van lift there watering down the material to make sure that there's no fugitive dust. The fugitive dust is minimized. We do have 24/7 monitoring going on there, not only on the persons who are doing the work locally to make sure that they are not exposed to any high elevations contaminants, but also outside the work area, adjacent to the school and in the interior of the school to make sure that there are no elevated readings there. We share on a weekly basis with the school what the status of those readings are as the work progresses. And then in the lower left-hand corner, you see just another vantage point of that demolition going on 120th Street. Next slide. So upcoming work for contract 2, we've already completed the lane shift from 120th south to 116th. So if you've driven on Second Avenue proper now, south of 120th, you know that the lanes there zigzag. We've shifted the traffic mostly west, except around 116th Street, so that we can do that work on 119th to 120th. But similarly, where we're gonna be building, our infrastructure on 116th Street, we're working on the east side of the block there, so traffic shifts back to the east, to the west at 116th Street. We're presently doing the demolition at 120th Street, 246 East 120th is the actual address. The anticipated completion for that demo is May 18th right now. Demolition for the lots that I mentioned on Second Avenue proper is in progress. While we were doing some minor work and roughly on pause for the building at 120th, we are doing abatement on those 3 buildings, so taking out any materials and doing any asbestos abatement there. Before we get into the heavy demo to take those 3 buildings down, we expect that building demo to start later this week or beginning of next week. And then some of you may have gotten notification already. We put out a notice today to give folks a heads up. We are going to start with test blasting. Some of the rock that we need to excavate at 125th Street is going to be done using controlled blasting measures. So we will be doing test blasting for roughly 3 days to a week to confirm our blasting plan, make sure that everything goes according to how we thought it was gonna go there, and then provide that does, if there were modifications, we would follow on with the actual blasting of the rock there for the eventual excavation and then future construction. That's anticipated to begin May 12th. And as I say, certainly the community board, Carrie, and any of you who are on our distribution list should have gotten a notification today that that was set to begin. Next slide. So this is the schedule for the controlled demolition at lot 128 over approximate to PS 96. So weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 have already been, 4 and 5 were not technically work because the school was under testing. So we were doing minor work there. But for the first 5 weeks that we've been over there, that work has been concluded with no, knock on wood, issues or elevated readings. This week, week 27, or week 4, the 27th of April through the 3rd of May, we're starting or finalizing the 4th floor demo and loading out the debris from that demo. And then we'll be moving on in subsequent weeks to the demo of the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st floors, completing on or around the 15th of May with the demo. Then there will be another week of loading out debris and then a week of grading. So expect to be wrapped up with that operation in total by the end of May, but done with the demo, which is the most, I guess, heavily watched portions of the work, the week of May 11th through the 17th. Next slide. The controlled blasting, which I mentioned, that will be taking place at 125th and Lex. That's contained to the construction yard. Anticipation is that will start May 12th. That'll go Monday through Saturday, as I think Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, and Kurt is the PCEO or the project executive for contract 2. I think we anticipate needing 3 blasts to confirm our plan. Kurt, is that correct? Yeah. 3 test blasts. So they won't go consecutively, it'll probably be a day in between, but we have earmarked Monday through Saturday for those blasts between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. All of that is done under close supervision with FDNY. And there is a blasting plan in place. It was outlined in the flyer, but also outlined here on the screen. 5 minutes prior to any blasting, there will be a warning blast that gets signaled. It is a 1 minute or one long 10-second long blast, 5 minutes prior to the actual blasting. And then 1 minute out, there will be 2 short signals, approximately 5 seconds in length, letting the public and the team know that the blaster is ready. And then it will blast, and then there will be 3 short blasts, approximately 5 seconds long, to let folks know that it is all clear, the blast has been completed successfully, and pedestrian and roadway traffic can resume. Next slide. This again outlines the controlled blasting measures. So all delivery and handling of explosive materials will be done in collaboration with FDNY and FDNY oversight. The controlled blasting program is in accordance with FDNY and OSHA. All of the levels, both vibration, the integrity of adjacent structures, including existing structures on 125th and Lex, will be monitored, as well as noise levels throughout not only the project, but obviously this operation. That vibration compliance will be reviewed by FDNY's explosive units, our blasting consultant, and the MTA to make sure that all is in accordance and adjust as necessary. FDNY has licensed personnel who will be conducting the actual blasting. And then, as I mentioned, while we're monitoring the noise levels, those noise levels have been approved and implemented by New York City's DEP. Next slide. So there's another operation that's taking place on Second Avenue. There is test pits and borings to confirm existing utilities and geology underneath Second Avenue. So this work is going on at 120th and Second. It's impacting one lane overnight only from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. So if you get any calls or if you see traffic shifting at 120th Street, it's just for this week only, approved by DOT and DEP. And that is, again, one shifting of one lane while we work in that lane to confirm utilities underneath. 2 of the 3 lanes will remain open throughout that operation. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see an example of a boring rig, similar to what we will be using to conduct these operations. Next slide. This shows the reconfigured lanes from 100, just south of 121st, down to 116th. It shows how you jog first to the east and then back to the west at 117th before traveling more normally from 115 south. This is something that we had shared previously, but want to just continue to remind folks. The areas in brown are where we have worked with DSNY and property owners to relocate garbage, because typically folks would just walk their garbage out to the sidewalk, and they can't in these instances if their sidewalk is or their curb line is blocked by MPT for work zone. So we have established with DSNY alternate pickup locations and communicated those locations to the impacted parties. Next slide. This is an example. Since our last meeting, we've met with, again, the business owners who have awnings that have been impacted. So this is one of the designs in consultation with the business owners. These still need final sign off by the business owners and the MTA before we can send out for printing. But again, just wanted to show an example of some of the collaboration that's been going on with the business owners, so that it's not those. I affectionately referred to them last time as hostage notes. They were just black and white signs, not very, elaborately done in replace of those awnings. So much more creative. And this is, in fact, one of the more simpler ones. Some of the other designs have, aside from the Chinese characters you see on the left, they may have a menu item or some graphics on them. But more to come on that as soon as it gets approved by the business owners. Next slide. This on the left-hand side is some of the inadequate signage that's up. And these are the signs on the right-hand side, more robust, more visible signs that are planned. All of these signs have been approved. The first tranche of which have already been sent to the printer. Anticipation is that we would get delivery next week and would be installed very quickly thereafter. There is a second tranche of signage that is ready to go and could possibly be delivered to the fabricator by as early as the end of this week. So a lot of movement on the signages and more to come with regard to the installation in the near future. Next slide. Contract 3, next slide. People, thank you. As I mentioned, since the last meeting, the federal government has restored funding to Second Avenue, which they were withholding. That gave us the green light to award contract 3. So work is technically underway, although they have not officially started working on the street. They're advancing their designs. Positive note, that contract is on time and on budget because it just started, so there's no issues there. All the properties have been acquired to advance that project. We're continuing to secure access agreements and finalizing any relocations. The project management team is already mobilized on site and they're advancing early design. In a design build contract such as this, we typically bring the design to approximately 30% before turning it over to the contractor to confirm our presumptions as well as advance their own design. So that's what they are doing now in coordination with our agency partners around the city. Next slide. This just shows you again where contract 3 will be located. Again, it's the 106th Street Station area, so largely footprint of contract 1 right now. Shows you where the ancillaries and entrances are from 104th Street up to 110th. Next slide. Community engagement, Hector, you want to jump in and do a little update on what we've been doing from a community engagement standpoint?
Yes.
Next slide. I think everybody knows Hector Santana. He's leads our outreach efforts here up at the Community Information Center at 69 East 125th Street, and a long-standing member of the East Harlem community.
So, last Friday, we had we had mentioned in the previous meeting that we were gonna do a job event. We did the job event at, Luis Munoz Rivera School. So it's PS 83. There were approximately 950 people who attended the event. We had 18 vendors that were in attendance. The vendors were, everything from, apprenticeship programs, CPP, for example, which is one of the contractors for, contract 2. We also had the MTA HR office that was there, and they were all talking about, potential jobs within those areas, both the MTA and also some of the contractors that are part of the project. We will be doing similar events to follow in the future and also follow up on what we did at that event itself. So we'll be talking about this in greater detail in the future when we come back from the meetings.
Yeah, this first effort was largely on behalf of contract 2, which is the first contract that we have on this project that has that local hiring goal. Since contracts 3 and 4 will have local hiring goals as well, the anticipation is we'll continue to evolve these events as we move forward and conduct additional events moving forward with the contractors.
Yeah, and we have received feedback from the event itself. Some people have said it's great. There were other people who wanted more interaction at the tables. But when we give you got 950 people, it's kind of hard to kind of hang out at the table and, and talk to applicants, at the event itself. So we're figuring out how we can follow up to make sure that we address those concerns and that we talk to the applicants after the event as well. Next slide. We produce a tremendous amount of notifications. So we have different advisories that we put out. The advisories are a little bit more descriptive of the work that's going to take place. The notifications actually indicate when the work is going to take place, and it's not as descriptive. So we do a combination of both when we got any work taking place. And we normally do this for all of the work that we do, from the simplest thing, like let's say a water shutdown, to something more intense like a building demolition. We do this throughout the project and throughout the alignment. So from 104th Street to 125th Street, you will see these type of materials. Sometimes we post them on the buildings where we can't get into the lobby, for example. But we try to put this out whenever we have anything going on. And then we also have the monthly newsletter, which we put out. If you're on our list, for example, on our e-blast list, you will get them. And you'll also get some of the advisories that go out through that too as well. And then we have the weekly look ahead. That's every Friday. We put that out so that what work is coming in the following week. And we do all of this, in coordination with a lot of the community organizations that we work with, including CB11. We do notify CB11 about everything that we're doing, and also this task force. This meeting is actually part of our community outreach initiative to make sure that the community is aware of what's going on. But to date, we have literally done over 500 project updates. And the project updates where we go to different organizations and we give them information about what's happening on the project, including very specific things like, for example, on the blasting that we're going to be doing. We're doing something with Uptown Grant. We're going to do that at the CSC on 125th Street in coordination, with Carrie and her organization to make sure that people are aware of what's going to happen before it happens.
Go back door to door.
Well, yeah, the door to door is when we post and things like that. We do door to door all the time when we're, for example, when we have something in front, especially in front of a business. So, let's say like, 106, 107, we have those 4 businesses that are there. So whenever something's gonna happen there, we do go door to door there. And 109, 110, working in front of those 9 businesses, we always go there and let them know what's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen. And when we do the advisories, for example, we have several advisors. We have a merchant advisor and we have a resident advisor. And then the third one is the student advisor. So for example, if we do something on 109th Street, we have 5 schools there. So we do an advisory that captures all of the schools on that block. And it's an intense effort and we do this all the time, particularly when we have something that's gonna happen in that area. And then this slide is just the, all the outreach team. As you can see, it's a pretty robust outreach effort. We do have a good number of people working on this project. And every contract, for example, has their own outreach person that interacts and coordinates, with the overall effort over the course of all 4 contracts.
Just for the folks not in the room, too, the folks online, and for anybody who has not had the pleasure of meeting the team before, we do have good representation from the outreach team here. I mentioned Kurt Edgar, who is the project CEO for contract 2. We also have Alejandra Cabrales here, who is the community outreach person for contract 2. I mentioned Michelle Perez already, who's from contract 1. In the back row there, you've met Hector, but we have Richard Harley as well, Fred Canizero. We got Yuki Zhang from the project management team, and we got Matt Zetwalk, who is the deputy project CEO for the entirety of the Second Avenue subway project. So they brought out all the big guns for you guys today. So, if there are any questions, I think the next slide just takes it to Q&A. I'm happy to entertain questions.
Great. Can we go back to the concern, I think it was in the very beginning of it. So that we
Okay, this slide?
And then, yeah. So I think there. We can begin with this. First, thank you for that update briefing. We're not gonna make you do this every month. Next month, I think we will just kind of like go with what our main concerns are instead of going through the whole thing over. Even though you do an amazing job doing it, Joe, I gotta tell you, you got that. I think in your sleep, you're saying was. So I will say that it's a very good presentation. I would like to be on the record so that the community understands the work that you're doing on around 106 Franklin Plaza and 109. Particularly, so just everyone understands they're moving the utilities out of the way, and because the ground is softer there, you're going to be ripping up and bracing piece by piece. Is that correct?
So yeah, eventually contract 3 that's just been awarded, what they're gonna do is they're gonna follow on contract 1, which is moving the utilities out of the way. So, let's just say you were a surgeon, right? And you need to get into the vital organs to do your work. You need to move the ribs out of the way. We're moving the ribs out of the way in the form of the moving utilities now under contract 1 to get to those vital organs. And that's what contract 3 is gonna do. They're gonna come in after those utilities are moved and working primarily in Second Avenue proper. They're gonna have to put in supportive excavation walls, similar to what you saw up in the yards at 125th Street, so that earth doesn't collapse in on the work while it's happening, and build those tunnels from the top down. So, very intensive work coming for contract 3.
At that point, you would do lane by lane as you.
Typically, we'll do one side of the street, so the east side, and then cover it up and shift to the west side, do the west side, go back and forth. But Matt could speak a little bit more about phases since we don't have contract 3 here, but.
Yeah, on C1, the underpinning, on, the frontal work on the building sides, we're doing one side at a time instead of working on both sides. So we'll go east to west and then west to east. Same thing for contract 3. So when contract 3 comes, they'll do our underpinning. C-cam walls, supportive excavation, they'll build one side of the street first and then start to mobilize the opposite side after they've done that entire west side first.
So all the traffic can get shifted, hypothetically, I don't know that it's been determined whether they're moving east or west first, but all the traffic would shifted to the east side while they work on the west, and then back to the west while they work on the east.
I
So traffic's not really
just
stopped.
want the public to be aware because on the northern side up of 120th, everything will be underground. There won't be any exposure, right? Everything you're digging underground as you make that turn to meet 125th Street. But on 106th Street, there will be,
Yeah.
more of.
Anybody who's lived in the area or is familiar with contract, phase one of the Second Avenue Subway project, the 106th Street station area will be very reminiscent to the work that took place at 96th Street station area. That was cut and cover. This will be cut and cover again because of similar geology.
Let me ask a question. I'm happy that the signage is moving in the right direction, but the signage that they ended on the businesses during phase one, is the signage that's currently up here what was ended with on phase one?
So,
Was it as nice? It's a simple question. Was it as nice and here now as it was at the end of phase one?
so if you go to the slide that I showed, the current signage versus the signage that's coming this week,
That's what phase one was like?
that's what. phase
So I
one-
guess my question is, why wouldn't you have started with that?
Well, because I think it was an error in the contract spec. The contractor produced the signs that were in the spec and it called for a 2x6 sign, which is more of a banner than a sign. So that was an oversight on somebody's part, and so we're correcting that.
Well, then, on that note, can we see the contract specs from phase one and phase two?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine we have the contract specs in phase one somewhere, but I'd have to dig those up. I don't
At
know.
the very least, could we see phase twos?
I'd have to just double check what I can and cannot share from that spec.
My concern is this, I think you're sick of talking about it, and we're sick of talking about it. I don't wanna, say things I'm not 100% sure about, but I find it very convenient that the signage thing has been dragged out. Because we're having these conversations about signage for months, when our attention could be on more important aspects of this, development. I don't understand. The businesses themselves have found ways to create more creative signing. And yet here we are talking about making bigger banners. I mean, so then even within that said, the idea of improvement 10 years later is to just get us to what it was 10 years ago. I mean, that sounds ridiculous to me. That is not, if you're gonna say lessons learned.
Yeah.
Those aren't.
So just out of curiosity, what would you call convenient about dragging out this conversation, since you seem to think this is convenient?
I think that it's gotten a lot of people to keep talking about something that should have already been checked off.
But how is that convenient?
Because then it's taking time from other parts of this that can be discussed.
Which is,
Well,
yet how convenient?
Well, let me ask you this
I don't
question,
understand
all the
convenient.
sidewalks that are being teared up in front of these businesses. Have the property owners and the stores been communicated on who is responsible or liable if someone trips and falls down in front of a business as a result of a sidewalk that's been damaged by your work? And I say that because some of the properties that you guys have acquired have the most horrendous sidewalks on Second Avenue. They're not even cleaned, and you have 4 guys standing on a corner with a stop sign talking to each other.
So any sidewalk that we touch as part of this project, we need to restore it, we need to maintain it, we need to make sure that it's free of trip and fall hazards, things of that nature. When it snows, we're responsible for cleaning. So anything that we touch,
But
do we have to restore
do
at
the
the end?
landlords, because generally speaking, when someone trips in front of a building, the landlord is liable. Now, if someone falls, do they know that, is the business listed or the property owner as additionally insured? How is that gonna work? Are these business owners or property owners aware of what would happen in an incident like that?
So to date, I don't think we've had any, so I don't think that's come up, or nobody is.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't be waiting until it
I
happens.
don't understand, but my point is that I'd have to double check. I don't know what is communicated to them in terms of insurance. But they certainly were communicated with in terms of what was gonna happen to their project, to their sidewalk, and who owns the sidewalk.
And then my last question for now on the job fair. So this was promoted as a hiring event. My understanding is a lot of people went there, as they probably would think from a hiring event, that there were specific jobs they were going there to discuss.
Yeah.
My understanding from some of the people that I've spoken to, there was no clarity there was no hiring happening. There were no specific jobs that they were being told would be available. And that when they also left at the end, they were not told about how they would be contacted or what follow-up there would be. And I guess with that said, I know a lot of information was collected. So what is the time frame on the follow-up? And what is the planned follow-up with it? Because it was a great outreach, but I want to know what the effectiveness is.
So this job fair was unique in the sense that this was, again, the first job fair that we had actual tangible jobs to discuss. So prior to this, we've done 4 job events in the East Harlem community associated with Second Avenue Subway Project and the Park Avenue Viaduct Project. In the past, those were largely job information events, making marriages between people who are looking for pathways to middle-income jobs, unionized jobs, and those folks who could afford them those jobs or educate them on the pathways. This time around, not only did we have those people involved in the process, but we had New York City Fire, we had NYPD, we had MTA, all there talking about real tangible day in and day out civil service jobs that folks could take tests for and get depending on where they land on the test, they could possibly get cited into those jobs. We also had Connect Plus Partners, who is our contract 2 contractor. They have real tangible jobs. Again, they have to make a 20% local hiring goal. So there was, at least off the top of my head, and I don't have, as a matter of fact, I do have on my iPad, I can probably follow it up. There are 8 non-trade positions that they are looking to hire for, as well as probably about 10 trade positions or trades that they would be looking to hire from. So those were real tangible jobs that would be hired for the Second Avenue Subway Project. As far as we collected, we had 1,900 and change folks register for this event. We had 956 actually come through the doors. We have resumes for most of those people. We're working with our partners at Small Business Services, New York City's Workforce One Workforce Development Program. We're going to be sending out all of those resumes to all of the folks who participated in that, the vendors who participated in that event. So all the trades, all the civil service opportunities, all the job and workforce development organizations who participated in that event will have access to those folks' resumes to follow up with. And then we will also be following up with the individuals who attended those events to provide them with continual information on future events and things to advance this project.
Angel, could you put up the pictures? To give us a visual too.
Yeah.
There's these pictures today when we did little walkthrough just to. We have a question from Diana. Diana, I see you. We'll get back to you. I have Asher, I have Jason, I have Emery.
I think my question is answered.
Okay.
Yeah, no, some.
We started at the north side where the demolition is. I think for now you have the pedestrian walkway is closed. I'm not sure if that's something to do with,
And this is at,
this is at 100 and your 120th, 119 Second Avenue. This is where you're, to your left is where you're
oh, okay.
doing demolition for the.
19 still pick up Second.
So is that pedestrian walkway going to be closed for a significant amount of time or was it just, but it was closed?
Sorry, we also have some of the other project team members on the Zoom, if you don't.
Sure, I see them all. I have a lot of people online. We have some small business.
So
If anyone wants to speak
Dan
on.
King, yeah, just, I don't know if
Yeah, he's
Dan's
the
on,
construction manager. for
but he's
that
the
area.
construction manager, so he could tell us why that was closed and for how long.
Dan King.
For how long.
Can you promote Dan?
Yep, I'm doing now.
They got a project?
So, you know, could he come for you?
No, just, I'm curious. We know that there's gonna be, bring things down and this is something that's consistent. Cause we were asked if this would be something consistent or if it would be something that was just temporary for like a day or two or.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can, Dan. It's better
Yes,
than last month we had you on my laptop, loud and clear.
Perfect. This is temporary. This is just during the day shift. We were doing some work on the sidewalk on the other side. So we were diverting the pedestrian traffic to the opposite sidewalk during this work. This was picked up by 3 o'clock and is only going to be for a little bit off and on.
So this is great. That way we can answer these questions as we go along. Yep.
And then there's a flagger on the opposite side, correct? That's controlling the pedestrians on the other intersection to make sure that they safely cross the street?
That is correct.
Is that Second Avenue?
Where they were
Yeah.
Talking with
That's
each other.
talking uptown.
There was no one when we went. There were three guys talking, and actually, when we asked them if they knew what was going on, they said they had an NDA. So that's what our experience was.
NDA.
What was our next one?
I'm sorry, what is this one? This is 120.
This is Second Avenue, 119, 120. This is more 119.
But is that with a truck? Is that Second Avenue?
That's Second Avenue, yes. This is where Second Avenue starts to do like a little snake dance, which is part of what we are expecting. Let's go to the next one. This is at the end. Okay, so this is near Franklin Plaza. This is where,
Right, so this is, and Adem and I have had extensive conversation on this. This is a passageway to the four business, well, this is looking north where the liquor store is, inside that passageway. So the only folks who should be going down the passageway, which you can't see in this, from this vantage point, are folks who are going to work or frequent the establishments that are on that corner. There is no access to Franklin Plaza from this area. It is not a throughput area. It is strictly to maintain access to those four businesses.
there's a way that we can get signage.
Yeah, so what I
That
said,
says, like, these
I don't know
four
if you were on the
businesses
chain.
are there.
well, so there is, that signage is there, but what I
No,
spoke,
because we walked.
I just now on the way to this meeting.
Unless they installed it after we were there. We have a picture of it, so that's gonna
But
be.
anyways, what I suggested and what I mentioned in my conversation with Adem was, what I think is if we feel that people are actually taking the right or left and going in here and getting turned around because they think they're going somewhere they're not, then what we should do is put signage on there as if you're looking to, go to 106th Street and go east or west, please proceed to the corner. Don't make this turn here.
I just also see it as a safety hazard for the businesses. You can mug people really easily in there. If there is an emergency or fire, it's a narrow way out. My concern isn't just pedestrians getting lost. My concern is the people working in those businesses. That is at night, you ask where it's really dark at night, well, that's one of those spots. And I would not want to be working in there at night.
The lighting, that was our next point. Lighting is a big issue at this bit. We sat down, we had a slice at the.
Yeah, allow me stuff.
We were talking with them, we invited them to come tonight. But definitely lighting, particularly at night, is as big.
Right, so again, we've met with Franklin Plaza, we've walked with Franklin Plaza around the entirety of, they have a very intensive operations going on 3 sides of their area there, so we've walked with them. DOT dictates what the lighting standard is and what is required for lighting and the lighting that we need to maintain. So we walked with them and we took light readings at like every 30 feet or so. We did identify 2 locations that were low lighting that were meeting DOT standards, and we added temporary lighting. So we can go take a look here. We can, anywhere you guys feel like, or you're getting reports of low lighting, document for us. Give me the corner, the street, the number on the front of the property, so we can go there and take a light meter reading. You can come with us that night. You know what I mean? We'll meet you
We
out
can
there.
do something like that. Anne Marie is vice chair of ECO and economic development.
Yeah.
And she recently did a walkthrough there, so over here.
You want me to do my report?
Yeah.
Sure, we're gonna do this
Great.
very quick.
Hello, everyone. So on April 13, I did a walkthrough of several of the businesses in that location from 106th and 2nd to 109th Street and 2nd with a member of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. He is the one he's the business supervisor of this area, East Harlem, and we went around. And some of the concerns was one, lighting. One of the business owner almost got assaulted. It was at nighttime. He was taking food to his daughter. He almost got assaulted because there's no lighting, the passage that they have. Another concern was the signage. If you look, they look like bed sheets going up and down in the air. I have pictures, by the way. What was the other concern? The lighting, the signage, the vibration that these businesses feel. When you guys are, doing your thing, and sometimes some of the water gets cut off, when they're doing business, they're restaurants, they're feeding people, so sometimes the water will cut off, or electricity. Displaced, some of them are being displaced to other places because you guys bought out the building. They mentioned there was a communication with the business owners and MTA in terms of the leasing situation with their new landlords, if they found a space or if you guys were gonna find space for them. They don't wanna get relocated down to lower Manhattan. If they wanna stay here, they've been here 20 years. They are also residents here. Wow, the list could go on and on. It's very sad to see this. You guys, we thought that it was only Second Avenue. You guys have taken over 109th Street, a couple other blocks. I get it. You have equipment, you have things, but it's disturbing residents and also disturbing the businesses. What else was it? The lighting, signage, the relocation, the displacement. I think that was it. Am I missing something, Adam?
No, you did.
Oh,
I'm
wait.
on the next one.
There's another one. They did mention that they received a visit from someone from NTA, Hector, because they showed me his card, and I know who he is. But they said that they called the number and they spoke to whoever it was. They are still waiting for that person to come out and help them with whatever the issues or concerns they had at the time. So yeah, so there's a disconnect with the communication with MTA and the business owners.
We had a
Any
similar, so we may want to do another round of making sure they have the right contact. We stopped at that new donut spot and a few other
Go.
businesses
Mhm.
on the northern side, like what is it, 118? And they also didn't have, they said that someone came, they spoke to them, but they didn't have like a number where they can reach out if they had a particular issue. Jason had a question.
Well, just quickly on that, so all the materials that we drop off at these locations and we speak to and we send down and we go door to door, has all of our hotline, has our CIC, so even if they don't know the person they need to speak to, there's two numbers that they can always get to somebody. They got a 24-hour hotline that they can call and tell us what their concern is, and they've got the community information center, which is open, normal business hours, which they can get to. It's all on the flyer. There's a QR code. They can go to the website. They can sign up for it. So there's no shortage of ways to get a hold of us, but we'll do another round of in-person contacts just to try to put people at ease. And there's the other thing with regard to the relocation and the lack of communication on that. We have a dedicated relocation consultant. So aside from the outreach team, aside from the dedicated contractor outreach person, aside from the MTA real estate team, there is a relocation consultant who's both, we have them in English and Spanish, in case there's language barriers that we need to overcome, who meet with these folks. The first priority for anybody who's being relocated is to find similar accommodations or retail establishment in the area. We want to keep them in the neighborhood because that's where they're comfortable, where they have their clientele. If they can't find it in the area, then they start looking, incrementally, going further and further and further. I don't think Lower East Side, is,
Right.
may have been a dramatic characterization, but
Let me just say, this is what's on their mind.
no, I get it. First of all, it's never pleasant
That's what I
moving,
told me.
but when you're being told you have to move,
Right.
it's even less
Right.
pleasant, right?
Right.
So, it's stressful. I get it, but we have a whole host of ways to make it less stressful, and I want to make sure they're utilizing, because they're there. We've gone out of our way to put these measures in place, so let's make sure they know
So
them.
let me ask you something. Can I get the contact information of the person who's helping with this
The
process,
relocation
the relocation consultant? Also the signage consultant, what were you using for signage since I'm working?
So
with
that's our
with
team
them?
here. That's Alejandra for contract 2, Michelle for contract 1, Hector for contract 1. Alex isn't here, but
I need the contact so I can get in contact because we're gonna do another walkthrough next week.
OR Cologne is local.
I think they're Manhattan based. I don't know, it's Harlem based. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, we'll get those contacts. Jason, and then we have a few other questions.
Yeah,
We have more people.
I have a few. For the properties with the issues with the business owners, was there adjoining property agreements made between MTA and the property owners?
I'm not quite sure what you're.
So like if I have to do a project out of the ground and it's next to an existing building, the DOB, the building code, because you talked about authorities having jurisdiction.
Yep.
The Department of Buildings mandates that I have to notify and or build an agreement between me and that property owner as the contractor. That may be outside of your purview as the developer and owner, but the contractors that are doing this work for you, I presume that there's that type of excerpt in their contract so you can execute on it.
Right, so as a state agency and as a transit development project, we have, the right to upgrade our infrastructure, to build our infrastructure. Anybody, like for instance, there's a affordable housing building that's planning to go up just west of Second Avenue on the south side of 106th Street, just past, Soul Mine. There's a vacant lot right there. So we are in coordination with the developers of that building to make sure that our projects don't butt heads. So there's that kind of coordination with other folks who are building in the area. There's coordination with the agencies who have jurisdiction, like we need to get all of our plans approved by DOB, DOT, et cetera. And then anybody who comes in after we're already building and we have infrastructure in place, not only needs to coordinate with the agency having jurisdiction, but our external partners program, just to confirm their plans and we make sure again that we don't butt heads.
Thank you. So my next question, back to economic development. Do you have a status update on the MWB participation?
We-
27% of
So
local hiring?
that's local hiring. Right now, 20%, 27% of the hours that have been billed against the contract to date, contract two, have been local hires. As far as the MWBE participation, we have been advised by the federal government that we are not tracking those numbers at this point, under federal guidance. There is still obviously a MWBE program, and we look to work with as many disadvantaged businesses as possible, but we aren't tracking against a particular goal at this time under federal guidance. And this is a federally funded project.
And there's no state or city funding from the MTA or from private?
There's no, it's federal and MTA funded,
100%.
yeah, between those two entities.
I'll check the regulations. Next so I guess that trumps this next conversation. What are the current goals and opportunities for, small disadvantaged veteran businesses?
So our DDCR, our Diversity and Civil Rights operation, was at the job event on Friday as well to talk about contracting opportunities and small business opportunities with the MTA. So our contractors and the MTA at large, we have a whole wing of the agencies that's dedicated to helping folks navigate getting certified through that DBE system and working on our project. So if you have folks who can supply goods and services in the area, we're all ears.
Yeah, this was specific to the veteran, this question.
Yep.
I'm familiar with the local DBE,
Typically-
a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
But I just went to a conference last year in November, and there was a big conversation at the state level where these funding resources or grant opportunities that happen with agencies, and unfortunately, they get slipped through the cracks.
So the three components of that program, which again, while we're not necessarily obligated federally to, record our numbers to the federal government, we still utilize that program, and that is DBE, which is disadvantaged business enterprises, MWBE, which is minority and women-owned businesses, and SVBOD, which is the service veterans.
Yeah.
So all three of those are underneath that same umbrella.
Okay. So I have to do a little bit of homework to see the ties, as the MTA is a city agency as well.
State.
It's state, but your trains only service New Yorkers.
Well, there's New York City Transit.
Yeah.
And then there's the MTA, the umbrella agency, which is state.
Okay, exactly, I had to do a little bit of homework to see how those rules necessarily apply, because the reality is these standards are set in place, or these arguments have, for lack of a better word, been stated for benefit because people are shut out, right? Which is gonna take me to the next piece, which is the community benefits agreement, right? I'm 99% sure the MTA and its constituents have a collective bargaining agreement for this project with the unions, right? The Sandhogs, which is a labor's union, is a specific and specialty trade. That being said, the challenge with some of these practices is that, a local hire, you guys did a great event. I heard about it. It was phenomenal. But it doesn't discredit that there are some people that have went to those events for the projects that you did down on Second Avenue coming up 96th Street that still never had the opportunity. So I guess a recommendation or a conversation that we can have and continue to have as a task force or through economic development is what are those numbers looking like to ensure that local hiring is happening. As you stated, it's 27%. I don't know necessarily what would be the best way for you to show us that, right? And or if the contracts, especially for local businesses that are because then that gives us as leaders a different conversation to have with the district, as opposed to what's been said in previous meetings where it's under the perception that this is just a benefit for the district, right? And as much as anyone who understands risk, as much as there's a gain for the district with the transportation, there's definitely a loss, right? We're hearing about the displacement, economic disparity, individuals that have been living here or coming up to live here are gonna move out for this project. So I would love for that to continue to be the conversation where we're figuring out ways to build bridges, have the conversation fluid. So example given is CAC has a project manager who has a superintendent who says that I need to provide them a laborer with a local 62-hour card so they could put them to work, and they'll deal with the union politics. No, that's community benefit, right? If that makes sense.
Yep, no, it does. I just would caution, I mean, I know it was just a hypothetical, but CAC does not have local hiring goals as part of that first contract. That's what contracts 2, 3.
So I'll flag one out. No, I'm with you. So I'll flag for a fact who has failed Skanska in the water treatment plant in Mashula, right? Then you could Google that and see what was done with minority contracting and minority workforce participation. We know they're coming down the pipeline. I don't want to get into the specifics. I just want us to have that open dialogue. So then that way, when we're getting those phone calls as separate from the calls that you're getting, we're able to figure out ways to navigate to benefit the district and ensure that residents, long-standing residents, have an opportunity with up and coming ventures. Some of the things we're talking about at land use with a lot of these large-scale projects, like I said, we keep hearing about collective bargaining agreements, associated agreement, contract agreements. Very, very rarely do I hear in districts such as this, unlike other districts where I was with DDC and they had the same presentation, and there's a discussion of a community benefits agreement. And that allows local leaders to have a different conversation with constituents that see whatever's coming down the pipeline. Because as you say as of right, force majeure, what's the other, when you just eminent domain, those are very scary words to the disenfranchised, right? And unorganized, because that was a little bit of my excerpt. I love the labor trades, I love the unions, I love the organization, but there's a lot of brothers and sisters out there that aren't a part of those organizations that deserve the same opportunities, if not more.
Happy to continue that dialogue.
Thank you.
No, I just wanted to, hi, and thanks for the presentation. So looking at the way that photo is with the liquor store.
Yep.
Can't they give, instead of putting a green fencing on it, can they put like a clear one that people, even though they're passing by with the cars, they can still be able to see their businesses?
What's on the other side of that green fence is a trench where they're actually working. Then there's another fence which protects pedestrians from getting in there. Then there's a protected pedestrian walkway, and then there's another fence. So they're behind green fences.
Like you can't put something clear through to still let.
Well, we put up the signage, that indicates what's behind there, and we put it up on the walkway and then eventually on the street, but the hope is, the expectation was that we were gonna be out of there in April, and now we hope to be out of there in May and tear that up. Hopefully that's gonna solve itself now organically, but, moving forward, and certainly in contract 2, Alejandra and team are trying to get ahead of these issues, and we've got the signage going up a lot quicker.
Yeah, because it's a serious eyesore, and if I was that business owner, I don't know how much money I would actually be making. People gonna think I'm not I'm not in business. And then, but yeah.
Let me also add that area in the coming weeks is gonna be widened, so what you see right now is actually being widened as the contractor moves through the work, so you'll see that.
But moving forward with other businesses, can we have that done for them as well? At least.
Yeah, we can,
Clear.
I don't know that it can be entirely clear, but it can be more transparent.
Yeah.
We can work with them to try to find something that's more transparent. It serves two purposes, right? It's to keep things, fugitive dust and things like that into work zone so that, it doesn't get out and make everything dirty. But it's also to, it's not necessarily pretty behind that fence with the work that's going on. So it's to prevent folks from, having to look at that all day too. So, but we have in certain instances, especially, where there is a situation like this, where if you've got concerns or you have very, legitimate concerns, we can look to put in what, more transparent, so that you can see through, and light can get through more.
Look more attractive.
Hi,
Thanks for the presentation, always good information. My question, is gonna be about the blasting. Okay, so your blasting is gonna start on the 13th of May,
The 12th, I think, right?
the 12th of May, and that's gonna be from Monday to Saturday from 7 to 7,
So that'll be the test period.
the test period.
And so there will be roughly 3 blasts that will take place over that testing period to
Mhm.
confirm, our plans. And then as long as everything goes smoothly, which we anticipate it will, then we will get right into the actual blasting. So,
And where will those testing specifically be?
current, it's 125th and Lex, south of, or east of Lex.
Where your Apple Bank, where the Apple
Yeah.
Bank used to be.
And south of 125th Street. So across the street from the old BMV building, in that vacant lot.
Yeah.
But not as far east as where the private development is going up. It's in that northern or that western half of the lot where we are.
So how far would the blast be felt to the surrounding buildings? And if notices have been given to those, residential buildings and businesses that's over there, to what to expect when they start the blasting, so they won't have a panic attack?
Yeah, so the flyers went out today to our blast list. I don't know that we've done the door to door yet, because it just went out on my way up here. I saw it go out. So the rest of this week, we'll be going to do the door to door and
Okay.
flyering door to door. So it's out electronically, and now the hard copies will go out. As far as how far the blasting will be felt, the circumference, do we have a?
Well, we have a restriction of particle velocity, which means how violent the blast can be, and within 200 feet of historic buildings and any transit development, meaning the 456 line or the Metro North line, it's restricted to 0.5, which is fairly low compared that, for example, the fire department allows 2.0 in regular buildings, residential buildings within the city of New York. So
Is there a diagram that can show that blast area
Blast radius?
radius? Yes.
I don't understand.
I'm sure we
Not
can
far, not
develop
far.
something like that. It's just that it probably depends on where you are. If you're on the 5th floor of a building or if you're on the street, I mean, you're gonna have a different experience.
Right.
But generally, the first blasts or the blasts that are for smaller areas, we do not expect to have much impact and vibration. Once we are underground in the station, while we are further away, the blast is gonna be more substantial, meaning the volume of rock that is gonna be blasted out is gonna be larger. And in that scenario, you could feel the vibration to the surface and within 100 feet of the blast location.
So I guess to answer your question in more practical terms, right? When we were doing phase 1 of this project down at 86th Street, I was in the community information center while they were actively blasting, and we would get calls and folks would say they were on the 8th floor of a high-rise building and they were feeling the vibrations. They thought there was an earthquake. So what I would do is I would go out and I would stand on the corner, 50 feet, 100 feet above, 80 feet above the ground, but 50 feet from the location where they were going to be doing the blast, just so I could experience and understand what those folks were feeling. And the ironic thing is, and I think what Kurt was getting at, is how the experience can differ. What I felt on the street was less significant than what somebody felt on the 8th floor, because the way the vibration travels up the building, they felt it more on the 8th floor than I felt on the ground closer to the source of the blast. I mean, I think.
I think, you ask for a radius of impact, we're gonna provide that to you.
Oh, okay. And during the blasting, the time that you are actually blasting, is the pedestrians and cars stopped at that point? While it's, when you start the blast, I
Right.
mean.
So I guess.
above and around, like no traffic, no pedestrians are walking past that area, I mean.
So part of the protocol is for the blasting supervisor and the FDNY to make that determination whether pedestrians need to be and vehicles need to be. So based on what they're blasting, where they're blasting, how close to where pedestrians and traffic will be. There will be occasion where they will stop that traffic. I don't know that it's on every occasion.
So, I mean, we had this discussion this morning with the fire department, so it is currently the plan when we do the test blasts on 125th and Lexington Avenue, that we will close 120 Lexington Avenue between 125th and 124th for the pedestrians. But as Joe pointed out in his presentation, there will be a signal basically indicating that the blast is imminent. There will be another signal, and then there's the blast. During this 5 to 10 minutes, the pedestrians will be helped to, let's say, walk from 124th to 125th Street on the east side of Lexington. We do not plan to have large scale reductions or prohibitions of pedestrian movement in the area of our blast. That's not the plan.
Thank you. We do also, I think, have our blasting construction manager on. Still on,
What's his name?
Jose Ferrero.
Let's see here.
Can I say something? Who's that? That's a free door?
So somebody comes in and out of the Zoom.
Wonderful for real. No. Can I or not yet?
Good.
Oh. so
Hi,
if
can
you
you
have-
hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Great for me.
The blast tests that we are speaking are planned from May 12th in advance, and are going to be 2 free blasts in different days to calibrate all the system, the monitoring system, and the capacity that we have to blast on site, not affecting to all the buildings that are around and the neighbors. We have to consider that we are going to install a shaft cover over the shaft to avoid any damage to the buildings, and the monitoring system is now on place around the shafts to check all the vibration and everything to not transmit to the buildings around and the infrastructure that we have.
We're gonna do these 3 questions, then we're gonna go take pictures. Marie, Jason, then Ash, and Marie.
The blast is on 125th and Lexington during the nighttime, correct?
No.
During the morning?
The blasts are restricted between 7 AM and 7 PM. The test blast is actually also restricted to be outside the rush hour of the 456. So assuming the rush hour ends at 10 o'clock and starts at 4 o'clock.
10 to 3 somewhere.
So you're gonna give us a diagram of how far, I live in Taino Towers, the 4 white towers that I buy on 23rd. So we need to know, and James too, we need to know the vibration, everything that's happening. I work across the street in Borinquen. If you need me to give out flyers, so everyone in the buildings and where I work, feel free. Because that's gonna be easy for you guys. Let everyone know, because this is scary. I mean, this is new to me, to many. To hear this, it's gonna be.
What's 100 feet? You may not feel it.
You never know.
At 100 feet, it doesn't even reach 3rd Avenue.
No?
No. it's
No?
more.
Okay, well, I didn't
No, I
understand this.
No, I understand. That's what I'm telling you, like, it's much further than, like, 3rd
So
Avenue.
it's just Lexington and
I
124.
think for now, there'll probably be bigger blasts in the future, but for now, if their point is 100 feet,
It's not even a half a sidewalk.
Okay,
you know, if you're not within that immediate area, you don't feel it.
but it's on the path mark in that area?
Yeah. But on the west side of the path. So it has to cross. So there's more than 100 feet from that side to the east side of the path. This is a big property.
Listen, I'm just making
No,
sure.
no,
that-
I'm just letting you know.
And I mean, you gotta think about the trains that are right next to
Yeah.
it, right? So MTA has this, my point wasn't really a question, it was a dialogue for us. MTA has as much concern in the state as we do, right? I guess my, and only forgive me because I should have checked the scope. The point of the blasting.
The test blasting or the actual blasting?
Yeah, why are you guys blasting? The rock too hard to dig?
Yes, so for the the excavation of rock, we are using the TBM, which is basically the tunnel boring machine. However, for the station, which the configuration, the radius of the station and the shape of the station is completely different, much larger than the tunnel boring machine. So we need to excavate the station by conventional mining techniques. That's either drill and blast. Basically, you blast the holes, you load the holes, you shoot out the rock. Alternatives such as a road header, which would be another machine that is capable of cutting the rock, is unfortunately not strong enough to cut Manhattan schist, which ranges in the 20 to 30,000 PSI range. And road headers the top capacity is around 10 to 15.
How far are you from the water?
You mean
Below.
the groundwater or the?
Yeah, below.
Yeah, no, we're below the groundwater. They're well below the groundwater.
Alright, so I'm presuming you guys did, I mean, of course, you had to do all your risk assessment. There is a concern, right? But the reality is they're notifying us now. We notify constituents, they be aware. When they, FDNY will lead and blast, DEP will be notified, MTA is right here, NYPD will be there. In my experience in blasting, they hold back. Right? And I just did blasting about 1.5 years ago with Bruckner, and as you know, it's probably next to impossible to blast in New York City because of these concerns with infrastructure. So it's the more we know, the more we can notify constituents, and we'll hold MTA to being the experts and ensuring that our citizens remain safe. You're blasting because you need to build the station. We could spend a lot of time with theories, right? There is a concern.
Ash, and then we're gonna go to Rosa, and we have 2 questions.
All right, before I ask my question, I'm just gonna ask quickly,
Can I
what,
ask a question before your question?
no, like, I'm saying, you said it's 10 to 3 is when you will be doing these test blasts, right? It's the timing,
Yes,
correct,
outside
all right,
rush hour.
so, yes, so have you spoken to any of the schools in the area, because that is a major passageway for students at the end of the school day? Like, a lot of kids walk through there to get to the train.
You mean on 125th Street?
Yeah, because think about it, you're gonna have lots of kids getting out of school, getting there right at that time. And you say that they might not feel it, but if they're close enough by, walking by, they might feel it. That could be a little bit alarming.
So as Jorge pointed out, the test blast is actually being performed close to the surface, meaning we have a shaft, we're gonna remove the soft ground, we're gonna expose the rock, and then we're gonna do a test blast there. The most important part of a test blast in an open cut is to protect the surrounding from fly rock, and you do that by either putting a cover over the shaft or you're putting down blasting mats, so the rock cannot escape the blast. Now, as we also said, the traffic, probably the pedestrian traffic in the close vicinity to the blast will probably be halted during that. And so those are the measures that we put in place.
But I think Ash's question is more for your external
No,
unit
but just to,
than the actual.
specific to your question is, we already communicate and coordinate with all the schools about everything. They get all of our information that goes out. But it's a good point that despite the fact that this is not happening in necessarily close proximity to the schools, the students and folks who may be traversing to and from those schools may be feeling it or aware of it. So it's a good point to redouble efforts to the schools just to make sure that that's being communicated.
Like saying specifically about that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, you should know that whenever there's an action or an activity in the area of influence, that's what the contractors call it. There is contact and communication with those entities in that area. So for example, on 125th Street, Harlem Children's Home. Subway, things like that, so yes, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, my quick suggestion is any schools within like a 10-block radius of there, also contact them, because that's a major transit.
Ash is the chair of youth and education, maybe you can also help.
Yeah, I have, and
Because this is new information about the exact date of blasting.
Yeah,
I think they should use us, we can.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, no,
We can
yeah.
get in contact with Alejandra, right?
Yeah, shipment contracts, maybe we can all.
We have a question from Rosa, we have a question from Diana, and from Michelle.
Wait, she's,
Rosa, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is one so hard to hear when like two people are talking at the same time, interrupting each other. Is really hard for us to be on Zoom. I will do my best to make it on person because I don't hear like everyone speaks loud, the other one speaks low. Like, anyways, with regards to the blasting, I am extremely concerned as a parent of a child on the spectrum. When we walk around there in 125th literally on a daily basis, the loud that the machine makes, and I do have videos to prove it, it is extremely hard. And I can just imagine what the blast is going to do to my daughter's ears. So I am extremely concerned about the timing because from 7 a.m. we're literally out there already. And I have a little one. So, and yes, I agree with Asher. This has to be brought to the District 4 Superintendent, Dr. Christie, because PS 96, PS 007, and a couple of other schools are in the area. And if I can hear the digging from 125th that the school is in 120th, I can just imagine the blasting. We're not hearing how loud it's going to be. So it's very concerning right now.
Thank you, Rosa. We're gonna get in touch with Alejandra and their team, with Hector, so that we can make sure that we let all the schools know.
Just for the record, that's also state testing week, so that's a whole nother added
Yes.
thing, so, yeah.
Yes, this week is also state testing, by the way.
I'm just, you know,
Okay.
if it matters, if it's 2 cents, my 2 cents.
Sorry, that's my bad.
It's not loud, it's more of, and you not used to that. Right? I'm more worried about what we can't see than what we're gonna hear.
We had 2 questions. I lost Diana and then.
She's
Oh, hey, Diana. And then we have Michelle.
They didn't call me, so I'm gonna come person.
Oh, even better. This is now I know how to get her in person. Great. She's trying to intimidate. That's what she's trying to do. Go ahead, Diana.
Well, my name is Diana. I work with the small businesses, especially the ones in East Harlem, and most of them for Spanish speakers. And my situation is regarding the signage. I know you guys mentioned you guys are working with businesses, making better signages. However, the construction between 105th and 110 has been already there for a year. And businesses cannot wait any longer. I don't know why it's taking so long to make a sign. I make signage, I make printing, and it doesn't take me that long to make print. So I really would love it if you guys could make the signage as soon as possible. Businesses are losing money. $100 a day if they lose is $3,000 a month, which is a month worth rent, and they cannot afford that. So my question is, when are the new signage gonna be done? When are
The first wave of new signage can go up as early as next week. It's ordered and expected to be delivered next week. There's a second wave that's going out this week.
What would that cover, the first signage, like one block?
Which area?
Block,
Is it
like,
115 and 116? 115. That's the first one.
they don't have the signage.
And then you'll see 109, 110, and you'll see 106, 107. You're gonna see all of those online around the same time.
So over the next couple of weeks, all 3 of those blocks will be.
Yeah, because my other concern was also that, like, you already closed one, that whole area to 115, 117, and 120, and none of them have the signage outside. So it's like, you closed them, you got them already. I know, you mentioned MTA is getting funded, federal funded, state funded. Do you ever thought having percentage of that funding available for small businesses. Small businesses are getting blocked. Small businesses are getting affected because they're not getting people coming into the businesses.
I can answer you that.
It is really hard for businesses.
That's a separate bill that has to be done. It's not within the scope. Right now, what they're allowed to do is only relocation. So if you have to relocate your business or relocate to where you're living, then they can fund that, but there is nothing, we would have to work with the affected, which is something that we should do in order to give funding. And since this project will be ongoing for many years,
Yes.
we would have to, there has to be like a bill and a law passed saying where when you have a business, what's the word? It's, there's an insurance for it as well. It's like business interruption.
Well, there are proposed bills.
I was gonna say, I wanted to add from experience too, the SCA, when they do these projects, that's what I was trying to say about the adjoining property agreements, they work those agreements out. So it seems that since MTA has this position of as of right, in theory, then they're not necessarily gonna work those deals, so we need to collaborate with the local officials to ensure that funding is coming into place.
And let me just jump in on that, if I could, with the access agreements and the local businesses. So any of the awnings that come on the building, those are access agreements that we've negotiated with the property owner and the building owner themselves. So to answer your question earlier, are we coordinating with businesses? Every single time we're in front of a business, we are working with them and we have an access agreement with them to remove the awnings. So I think the problem is, in all transparency, is that when some of the designs advanced with the underpinning, we didn't anticipate being as close to the building as we have to get. So that rig is now closer to the front of the building, which is impacting their life.
Because some of the foundations step out to the side.
Right.
So until we did the test pits and got down there and actually saw, so to Joe's point, some of the old agreements, they were not anticipating to have to take the awnings off. We've now since corrected that. And we're working with the businesses to get their graphics reprinted and put their graphics up on the front of the building. So that way now it doesn't look like a black and white sign. It was an oversight because nobody anticipated having to pull the awnings off the building. And now that we're closer to the building, those are being removed and they're being.
Now, when you're done with that construction and you're finishing, you will be putting those awnings back on.
We took their awnings down and left them safely stored.
A lot of those awnings are grandfathered in and now there's new permit things, but we don't want those businesses that have been there forever now have to deal with permits and new situations that they wouldn't normally have to deal with because they already had that sign there. They would have fallen under that permit regulation because that would have been for a newer business. But them,
Just a point about the funding for the businesses not being relocated. We do have two bills by our senator and assembly person. So I asked the committee internally to consider letters of support to both those bodies from the board supporting that to help push it along. So for next month,
Okay.
we could do that. That's more something that we should be dealing with.
Okay.
It's not something that they can.
Yeah, because MTA, they do have funding for people that their business has been affected, like if water has been cut off, gas or anything like that. So that's why I'm assuming like, closing the path is a damage
and
also.
unfortunately, business interruption.
Sometimes what makes sense isn't how it goes.
We asked the same question.
Okay, my other concern is the signage placed between 106 and 109. I saw there's two different sizes of signage, one that's a lot bigger than the other ones. However, they're the same color as the signage that you guys have for construction. It's blue with white letters, so my concern is like how people are gonna know that's something different, that's not a construction signs, like people are not gonna read it, like they will just assume they're all construction signage, letting people know there's gonna be construction, they say this time, so everything there should be a different color used for businesses.
Angel, can you just go back to that, if it's still available, so there's the old signage and then the new signage, which is gonna be, I think it's, what's the spec on it, 6 by 10?
No, 5 by 10.
5 by 10, but it's much larger, blue and yellow,
The current one is 2.
yeah, so it's drastically different.
It was 17, I think.
I don't know if you saw this one.
No, it's 19.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
So now they cover up the whole, so that's the old signage, the banner size sign, which was either there. These are gonna be the new signs that are bigger and larger, they're almost the full width of the and height of the fence panel.
So to Diana's point earlier, which is our question that we've had, I mean, you've had this construction in that area for a while. Now you've covered a lot of 116, a lot of 120th, which we have some pictures on again. And again, there has to be some kind of lessons learned, right? If you're going to cover it, you should have the signage appropriated by the
Already.
time you're gonna cover it. As
Yep.
soon as you cover it, you can't do this months and weeks and later.
Yeah, I think
because
we
it
went into
affects.
it, and it's a bit of it's a unique situation in contract one because of where we find ourselves and how we're accelerating work now to keep it on schedule to make sure that it doesn't negatively impact contract three.
116 is contract 2 though.
Right, and those signs are already being ordered, those signs have already been
Well, they
coordinated.
should have been ordered prior to you putting up the fence,
Right,
which
but we're
you
talking-
already have.
But we're talking 2 weeks versus 2 months,
I
you know what I mean,
understand.
or.
The business on 109 have been where Monte Carlo Diner is, it's been over a month and a half and they don't have anything right there. As someone said earlier, you said, and that makes sense, and that it's nice, the one from the Sky Dragon or whatever,
The
would
bed
it take
sheets.
like 5 minutes to design? I'm just asking, I mean,
Maybe like
just the
bed
font, the
sheets.
colors, like, I don't personally understand what has taken so long.
They
Once
should
you
put
had
that
those
already.
black and white signs up there and you knew you had to go that close to the buildings, you would have known that that was gonna happen probably everywhere. And the reason I asked for the contract specs is because there seems to be a lot of us not knowing, is this the contractor, is this the MTA? And if it is the contractor, what mechanisms does the MTA have? Because I'm not hearing any repercussions for the contractor if this is their fault. So we wanna know what the agreement is and what enforcement mechanisms there are in place and what remediation, because the time these businesses have had to dealt with this, they can't get that back.
Mhm. The money, yep.
And also, what is the agreement with the person who's doing the signage, like how long it takes him to create one sign? Like, it should be done like really fast, it shouldn't take him that long,
Yeah.
right? Probably you need to look for a new one.
What is,
Major, can we
Say a local
go back to
person.
the picture somewhere?
Stop cross talking.
Yeah.
It's really annoying.
So, the process as it is right now, the vendor is doing the sign, like a 7 to 10 day turnaround time to produce the signs. But in this case, it's just to see the number of signs that we produced it. Because remember, he literally has to produce signs going all the way from 120th all the way to 104th Street. And that includes the side streets too. So wherever we have
But it's
MPT,
not about the sign.
there will be signs that will be
It's about an
produced
event.
there. I spoke to him, he indicated that he would produce all of the signage within
No, no,
the May period.
It's funny.
So what we expect to see is a rollout of signage literally all the way down the street, you're all the way down the avenue from 120th Street all the way down to 104th Street. So you should see a lot of the signage come into place around the same time.
Let's go through these pictures so we see what's currently
I'm a
there.
bad photographer.
I may come on some of these pictures. There I am.
So that's just the other
Oh,
side of, so we already kind of talked about
Okay, we
that.
talked about this.
Some of these, so I wanna ask about this. I saw this walk in here. You can go to the next one too, Angel. Yeah. So I guess that's a sign put up for the 119th and Second Avenue bus stop, letting people know that they should go to 116th or 122nd. That was the sign. I had to go through the fence where there was an accidental opening cut to know that I guess that bus would be elsewhere. I just wonder why that bus stop thing, it couldn't have been put up higher and bigger, and it's, unless I'm missing something, it's just these little things that just show that there's really, no thought going into these.
And it's.
I mean, no one can
but
see it.
this bus stop is encapsulated inside of the work zone.
Right, but there's a notice there to let people know to use other stops, so that's a notice, so how would they see that?
But the notice was there prior to the implementation of the work zone to let people know to stop using that location. And it's now inside a work zone that people can't get.
Do we
to.
have a notice on the
Well, no,
outside of the
I-
encapsulation?
That's what I'm asking. I understand that, but now people are supposed to just have remember that, or what if you haven't been there before? Why can't that sign still be up there and
So it's,
visible?
so it's encapsulated,
Yeah, you can put it on the outside of the work zone.
but at the outside, there's nothing there. That's what
But
our
we can have
point is, so we can have that. Next comment, let's just keep going through these, cause again,
Well, those are the, we've spoken about, I mean, where were these taken from? Like,
it's somewhere like you were like where was it? That's where you were
Is this like-
practicing the blasting? Could you paint these things? Like,
So, yeah, so as a matter of fact, I just did some numbers.
we asked you about this earlier.
Right, so there's presently,
The community, we just need it to look like a community and.
and I don't know whether
Let's
that's.
say we're in anarchy here, like, this is the apocalypse.
I don't know whether that barrier was put out there with that ding in it or a car hit it, a car could have hit it.
I mean, it is the
It's
inside.
not one thing,
I'm
it's
just
a
saying.
bunch.
No, good thing.
Hypothetically, I don't know whether it went out there looking like that or whether it got. But in terms of the painting, there are hundred and 46 pieces of Jersey barrier in the contract one. They just did a recent inventory of the barrier. So there's 146 pieces of barrier, 87 of which have been painted. It's an ongoing rolling process. 59 are still in the process of being painted. So they're tackling it on contract.
Angel?
Just briefly for the people in the room, we're trying to service also the people that are participating online. The crosstalk makes it absolutely impossible for them to decipher what you're saying. So if everyone could please have a little patience and hold their thoughts until the previous person finishes their expression and then weigh in with their question. Because when you're 3 or 4 people talking, nobody online is making out what you're saying. I can hear you here, but online they can't. It just hears.
Thanks, Angel. Can we do the next one?
Yes.
This sidewalk in particular, a lot of what's happening, like if you have an accessibility issue, a walker, a wheelchair, or any of these things, I understand that you're going through a significant amount of construction. We understand that this is going to cause some concerns, but you need to like do a little better job of kind of smoothing these things out. Because we have a very large population of elderly in this community, and a lot of these walkways are in terrible. Okay, we took a few pictures of that. Both sides. Angel, go to the next one.
I
That
can
one's
explain that. Well, do you want to,
This is like
no,
a
that's
lighting-
different, that was a lighting.
lighting.
concern.
This is the daytime. It looks dark. Okay, this is.
I wouldn't
as you
want
can see,
somebody I know walking down there at night. So.
This is.
It's 116 and 118.
Yeah.
Oh, it's.
wow.
Yeah, for the.
That's
118, 119.
So we'll share,
Yeah.
we can share these with you. Let's keep going. Or we can actually do that right through and be
Oh,
there, they have both of those doors open, which they will at some point. The walk path becomes significantly smaller. So again, anyone with accessibility issues.
So just on that front, because I actually inquired about that on my way up here, I talked to Alec. So in this particular area, from mid-block south, there is a second pedestrian protected walkway that is 6 feet wide on the street side. So you can go to either side. So if they're doing deliveries or otherwise closing this, because that's on the north side of 109, that's Tito Puente in the background there, right? So if that area is being occupied, then there is a alternate path out on the street.
So you can see it.
And we've spoken to this merchant numerous times, and he keeps the, basement door open because he needs it for ventilation.
I mean, I don't blame him, as this is right, no? But if he opens both, it's an issue. Let's keep going, Angel, because we have our timing,
Well, that's just an example, but that's a,
it gets narrow.
Yeah, it gets real
You're
narrow.
showing me.
That's.
Let's keep going.
That's just signage.
So again, these are all signage issues, right?
Jose, can I ask a question with this? So this is a part of the first contract?
No.
This is two.
Okay.
So which is an issue for us, right? Because we're not learning from our first contract. First contract, we were slow. Now we settle contract 2, and all these businesses are.
And of course, my bias, if there was local hiring, I'm pretty certain there'll be a different attitude with workers that live in the district as opposed to workers coming from elsewhere.
Let's keep going, Angel. As you can see, it's walled on one side, the other side, again, no signage. Let's keep going. Sometimes, some places you don't have those fence wrapping for.
Yeah, that's what I
pedestrians.
was,
Oh, yes.
111, 112.
it's been like that over a month and a half, with no signage.
Let's keep going. And again, we'll share this with you just for you to visually.
You know,
think quickly. This truck, I don't know if it belongs to you guys, but as you can see, it's there quite frequently. It sticks out into the very snake lane that we have now. And it has plenty of space to move forward. But for whatever reason, it turns, instead of being 3 lanes, it turns into 2 because no one wants to run into this big truck. Question, as you're doing this snake pattern there, is that still supposed, because it says bus only, is the right lane supposed to be only for buses? Because that's not what's happening due to what's Current,
No, I don't think it's not bus only anymore.
and yet you should see on the bottom, it says bus only, that you wanna make sure that our community's not getting ticketed, cause now.
No, people have
They
gotten,
take,
people have gotten.
Yeah.
no, that's on the right.
Oh, you mean on the other
This is
side?
where it joins back
Oh,
into the
right.
bus thing.
Gotcha.
But in between this area where you're moving to the left and veering back to the right, you do have on the rightmost lane, you have bus only painted on the floor, which I don't think you should have at this point, considering what you're going through. Ash,
Just relating to this, in that area where there's like maybe it might be a little bit further down, there's like a gap between like two of the fences and stuff like that, where I've seen cars park and get ticketed. Is there something that could be done about that? Because it gets ticketed as that's a bus lane, but the buses can't go through there. It's in between the two.
you'd have to give us.
Yeah, if you give us a specific location.
I think it was,
We can do that
Yeah.
offline,
yeah.
cause we're running 8:30 right, so let's
Sorry.
keep going.
That's, when you go to the next one, it'll explain this. So that's the property that you guys bought, and that's what the sidewalk looks like.
If that was my sidewalk, I'd get a ticket.
There's literally a rat trap sitting in the middle of the sidewalk.
Let's keep going.
That's, oh, I have a question about this. So that lane, I understand that, I think that's where you turn into 116 now, but I'm seeing a lot of cars and I drive down that way myself. They don't even realize it till it's almost too late that the lane's opening. There's no way to install some kind of signage for traffic ahead of time, kind of letting people know that that lane is gonna cut left?
Or painting,
Something?
right?
You don't know till you're there.
We'll see, this is something we can work with
Just,
DOT,
okay.
but we'll have to, that's a merge thing. They'll coordinate it with, let's keep going. But it does
Might have
pop
to
up
do a
on you,
walkthrough with them.
and that was it. That was all done, perfect, we'll share these with you, but again, like, considering, we just want the process to be smoother. We appreciate that you worked on the signage, that they'll be up in the next few weeks, but again, like, for a small business, it may not seem a long period of time for an MTA, which takes significant time for these kind of projects.
Right.
But for a small business, 2-3 weeks of doing bad business, I can't pay my rent, I can't pay my employees, I can't pay. Yeah, so the dynamics change significantly.
My question is, almost past this, but at what point do we start talking about, housing on the land that you bought up?
So that, there's specifically around 125th and Lex and 125th and Park, there's, already contemplated overdevelopment or joint development, overbuilds of the existing, infrastructure that we're gonna be putting in place. All of it is, the areas potentially ripe, the ancillary buildings are ripe for conversation, but that's towards the end of the project.
Okay.
And so once we build our buildings, then somebody may come in and we would have a conversation with a third-party developer who may be interested in joint development. But we're willing to have a conversation if folks who want, or developers who want to have conversations. Our real estate team's all ears.
Cause you're building on 109, 115, and 120 if we're gonna also be large, right? These are
Yeah,
large
all the
scale.
ancillary structures, or the combined entrance and the ancillary structures have the potential for that joint development. And the ground floors of the ancillary structures is again, something that we've considered because, we don't want to create dead space. There will be retail opportunities in those ground floor spaces.
That's what we're doing.
So.
I have a question for Michelle, which had her hand up. Hey, Michelle, you still there? I'm sorry.
Here, your door.
Michelle, do you hear me? Now you can.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. Good evening, everyone. Hi, Joe. It's Michelle, Union Settlement. How are you? I know you're working on the banners, and so my question is, would you consider expanding the marketing? For example, using Link NYC for some of the images that we're creating for the small businesses, or perhaps posters in the frames in the train stations, maybe on Lexington Avenue or on the 96th station, and a space on your website when you're sending out all these marketing and updates. You can share the link with a space that connects to the small businesses on Second Avenue, just a way to increase the marketing exposure, because I'm afraid that the banners just won't be enough to save the big decline that's going to happen, or that's already happening to them.
Yeah, we're happy to discuss additional ways. I mean, one of the things we did previously was we created a mall map of sorts of all of the businesses, street by street, block by block. And then we can host that on our website. So we can do stuff like that. It gets a little trickier when you talk about posters and frames in stations, because there's only so much space that we would be allowed to utilize for that. And we've run into problems in the past where, you know, no good deed goes unpunished, and we showcase a particular business and then somebody's unhappy because they don't like that business because we didn't showcase their business. And then it becomes, you know, a tug of war with folks. So it is a delicate situation in that regard, but there are other ways that we can work with organizations like yourself, Uptown Grand, 116th Blocks Association. Yeah, exactly. Well, obviously the community board, you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. You know, we can work with all those organizations to come up with programs, whether it's Small Business Saturdays, you know, just different things. And we're happy to partner and work with you all on that.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. One question, Diana?
Yeah.
Or statement or question?
You mentioned there will be retail space available. Will you consider businesses that are in Second Avenue that probably will need to relocate for that space first before giving it to someone else?
Yeah, I've already sort of posed this question. Well, team, how they would, you know, it'll go out as a very public RFP. I don't know, I have to find out, or we have to understand whether there's some way, much like you would give a local resident or somebody with past military service additional points on the civil service exam for their experience, if there's a way that we can sort of incentivize or reward local businesses when it comes time to put those RFPs out. So we have time for that, but it is stuff that we're considering and thinking about how it can be executed.
We're always, in the community board, we're always gonna ask for them to consider the local businesses before anyone else. Did we were able to get the asbestos readings from the school yet, or?
So we, like I mentioned in the email, we send them every week to the school. We sent an email with regard to what was above or below exceedances. I mentioned to them that we would work on a specific, not only the 120th Street location, but project wide, you know, a chart of sorts. So I spoke to the team about that today, and he asked for it bi-monthly. So twice a month, we'll send that out. Hopefully we'll start next week. And every 2 weeks, we'll send you a report of what the air monitoring readings look like.
All right, great. Great, that'd be great. We're gonna move forward now to our next, we have a couple other points. If we could remember, if we could find out about the stipend for the signage compared to phase 1 to phase 2, we're curious about.
Not the signage, the specs in general.
That'd be great. We have Pauline Ferrantes from the Department of Health in regards to the rat mitigation coordination that they've been doing with you. Hey, Pauline, you hear us?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I had to reconnect as a panelist. So I am here on behalf of Caroline Bragdon and the rest of our pest control team. They sent me some bullet points that I can share with everyone today. So since May 2024, the DOH-MH has partnered with Hector and Gregory of the MTA Construction and Development for the Second Avenue Subway project. And since then, we have completed 12 rat academies, which are free rat prevention training events. The last event was held on April 23rd of this year, so last week. And we will continue this collaboration through the entirety of the Second Avenue Subway project. We have Rat Academy dates that are posted on our website. So if anyone is interested in attending, please look on our website for any open dates. The team also attended a quarterly Second Avenue Subway Phase 2, 106th Street Station Residential Construction Advisory Committee meeting that was on April 14th of this year to provide rat prevention materials and resources. The team answered questions and received referrals. They wrote a note that there were no referrals received at this meeting, but when they do go to meetings, they accept referrals for problematic locations. And of course, the team will continue to attend these meetings as they are scheduled. And lastly, they provided me information that they will continue to, they attended a collaboration meeting that was hosted by the Tito Puente Educational Complex for a rodent resistant bin distribution event that happened last month on the 11th. They provided 45 bins to local residents and businesses. So if there are any problematic locations that you would like the team to know, please share that with the community board. They can send that to me directly, or you can, obviously let the MTA team know, and they can share that with Caroline and her pest control team. Thank you.
Them and then Jason.
Angel, is it June 15th? Our Human Services Committee Chair and myself have scheduled a Rat Academy, so in conjunction with the board at El Museo, right? From 5:30 to 7:30.
For general location for DOH, 125th Street between Park and Lexington, the rats are starting to walk in the daytime. For the MTA, and this is from land use and from landowners in the district, there's a concern whether the unearthly disturbances in the soil result in rat migration. We actually have instances that, people are fixing their sidewalks and seeing, I don't know what to call them, rat caves or not, a lot of rats. Question is, what is the MTA doing to assist said existing properties and or remediate the issue from affecting these existing foundations and building infrastructures? And I know they're gonna tell me it's an existing condition, but the old school saying as a contractor is if I touch it, I own it.
Right, so there, the DOH, MH can back me up on this with regard to, we've walked the entire alignment with them, multiple times over the course of it. We, again, much like any of the other agencies having jurisdiction, they have jurisdiction over how we can mitigate against rats or vectors, not only rats, but mice and mosquitoes, et cetera. So we need to follow their guidance with regard to that, and we can only bait and mitigate in and around our work zones. So I can't put a bait station in a building or a house, but we do work with those property owners and we do work DOH, MOH to educate folks on, because like you say, there are burrows and we're disturbing the earth where those burrows are, so they migrate to another soft earth area. So we do work with the building owners and the residents to educate them on, practices that they can employ to help, slow things down and not impact them as much.
So if I get any complaints, I just tell them to reach out to Hector.
And that has already happened. For example, I'll give you a case in point, on 105th Street, East Harlem tutorial. They had indicated that, when we started doing work there, they started seeing more activity. So we went from 4 base stations to 12 base stations. So far it's, it's been a controlled environment system.
And I'm sure as we're digging, well, we're not even digging yet. That's the funny thing. That's when it gets even worse. My understanding from phase 1 and the conversation we've had in that regard, that's when things really started moving along, particularly with like roads.
I will say that 124th Street over 125th Street area did have, I have pictures that I sent to folks. Even before we took possession of that lot, it was, there was a lot of activity in 124th Street area.
I didn't see that. Sorry. The rats there walk funny though. When they eat on the ground, they walk a little funny. But no, we understand, but again, it becomes your problem.
Yeah.
Like that's just what it unfortunately comes into.
Yeah, the areas where you see, like, they become more apparent, just let us know, we increase the amount of base stations.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Pauline, for that. We're gonna move forward. We had last time you were here, we had Civitars, the university students. Do we have someone from them on today?
I think Charlie
Olson, yeah, he's raising his hand.
1 second, Charlie.
Hold on, Charlie. They had the presentation,
Yeah.
there was all
Columbia, they're doing this.
Columbia University, yes. You muted? There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Now we can. Go ahead, Charlie.
Hi, thanks again for letting me join, and I wish we had a whole nother semester to take in a lot of the recommendations you guys had today and concerns you raised.
This project, I mean, you, I think, or most of your group is graduating, but I'm sure that there will be plenty of semesters left for this particular project.
Absolutely.
Is
And for
there anything
those who weren't there, just a brief introduction. My name's Charlie. Me and my fellow classmates came last month and we learned a lot. And we have a final presentation on Friday that we're preparing for. We've taken in a lot of the recommendations that a lot of you guys have brought up, and we're excited to show Civitas what we've prepared, and for them to bring it to you guys. And then I believe we're coming back in May. So looking forward to that as well.
Thank you, Charlie. They had a good presentation last month and they're working with Civitas to kind of give suggestions and ideas, and love this, pretty interesting. Then we're gonna. You have something on this?
Yeah, because C and D are tied together, in my opinion. So the reason that they were invited was they already did their presentation. They had asked us for comments on what, you know, what we would like them to include and what our vision is. And I know the deadline is tight, but my hopes are that at this table today, some of these great ideas we have, we can streamline them, they can hear them and possibly incorporate that. So that's what this discussion, and that's why George is here to kind of help us with that. So that's what this next discussion.
Our OG George James. Yeah. Land use guru. So we're gonna move forward to D, which is discussion of development potential from C acquired lots post construction. George, please.
Great. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, I am the land use consultant to Community Board 11. I have been for many years, too many years. Well, actually, it's been great because I get to know, you know, work in the same place for a long period of time and really get to know it. I also happen to live at 86th Street and 2nd Avenue on top of the 2nd Avenue subway station, and experienced the blasting in my building. The Newberry.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So on the 5th floor. So, you know, I was about as close as you can get. All right. So Angel and Jose asked me to essentially look at this. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to?
Why don't you share?
Okay, I'm sure. Okay. All right. So to look at potential development potentials with the 2nd Avenue subway sites, meaning the MTA is taking property for specific purposes, and some of that may very well have development potential in the future. And really, if there is going to be development on these sites, they're going to be shaped by the ventilation buildings. The ventilation buildings, they're most often these standalone buildings. Here are a few from the first kind of purpose-built standalone buildings. They don't have to be, right? It's possible to build ventilation buildings into a building or even make them blend in. Here are a couple of others. This is from 55 Hudson Yards. The ventilation building on the right is designed to fit into the Brooklyn Heights context, right? It's like, that is a ventilation building, purpose-built for that. And the ventilation building for 55 Hudson Yards, it was built first, and then they built 55 Hudson Yards around it, but it kind of blends in. But now that being said, and you guys can correct me when I'm wrong here because we haven't talked about this, but the MTA prefers standalone ancillary buildings, right? This is 125th and Lexington. This diagram comes from the environmental impact statement. Shows the standalone ventilation building on 124th Street with the subway entrance in the proposed in the possible new building at 125th Street, and then this would be the new building on the lot. This was all done as part of the rezoning of this part of the lot to the new R11 districts. All right, so there are special zoning rules that deal with subway infrastructure. Transit facilities like this don't count as zoning floor area. They're exempt from FAR limits. On Second Avenue specifically, there are special height rules for lots with this zoning lots with this specific infrastructure. So it can go up to, buildings can go up to 325 feet if the zoning lot has a ventilation building and or emergency stairs. It can go to 215 feet if the zoning lot has other transit facilities, and then 185 feet if there's no transit facility. And also, all of the parts of everything we're talking about is part of a mandatory inclusionary housing area, meaning that buildings get built here, they have to have, roughly 25% of their units be affordable. I should say income restricted housing. So the MTA showed this, they're showing the ancillary buildings to stand alone at 106th Street and 109th Street. These are them. Now, mixing other uses with the ventilation building would require the consent and cooperation of the MTA. This is a diagram that the students showed. And even then, a design like this is unlikely because the building core would have to go through the ventilation building. I think they would interfere with each other. Anyways, this is part of this kind of integration is unlikely. It would actually require very close cooperation with the MTA. And it's just, I think, a design would be much more difficult than something like this. This is something that somebody else did. This was done by Hester Street in 2019 on this site, where you can have the ventilation building as a separate standalone building, and then there'd be a residential building that would go up alongside of it, and then either cantilever or rest on top of it. But I also think that this would be difficult and unlikely due to the building integration. I think more likely, and again, I'd love to hear what the MTA says, is something where you keep the infrastructure exactly the way you planned it, right? You're not going to want to change it, right? And then but on the same zoning lot, you could have a residential building. In this case, this building cantilevers a little bit because it bumps up against the height limit. Cantilevers over it, but it leaves a big gap between the subway, the ventilation building and the bottom of the building. But it doesn't have to cantilever. It just needs to cantilever to use up all the available floor area. And if you did something like this, it would produce an MIH building that is at least 25% permanently affordable. Now, I know when we were going through the EIS for the Lexington Avenue site, this board wanted, it's publicly owned land. Why isn't it 100% affordable? Which is what this community board has supported for publicly owned land. And the MTA has said, well, they're not a housing agency and that's not their job. And so they would do the minimum amount required. I don't know if that's changed or not, but that would be most likely here, right? Something like this would put 25% of the building or 25% of the residences roughly into permanent affordability. Now, that's the Second Avenue. I didn't do the other site. Sorry, I just learned out about this a couple of days ago. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the 125th Street site. So because 125th Street specifically is identified in the East Harlem Neighborhood Plan as an area for substantial density. The plan says create high density and mixed uses around the Metro North Station, 125th Street and Lexington Avenue line stop, and future Second Avenue subway terminus. That was written in 2016, right? It was written a while ago. And it's like almost like we're planning because we know that the Lexington Avenue is planned for this, right? This was rezoned. This site was rezoned to the new R11 district, and it is going to have a 15 FAR building here. It's very substantial density. Really, the question is what's the plan for Park Avenue, right? The Park Avenue site, the ancillary building here, the entrance here, they're showing an open area over here. And this is gonna be really complicated, super, super complicated if there's a mixed use or residential building here, because you have the viaduct, you have Metro North. We've seen lots of difficulties developing this site. We know that Durst has had the control of the site on the other corner for as long as I can remember, and they have not been able to develop that site. They had control of this site and it was taken from them. And it's unclear what more is going to happen here other than what is shown on this drawing. I know that this community had recommended it for high density zoning. It was implemented as high density zoning in 2017 to facilitate major development on this corner. And ultimately it's not going to happen until the subway is done. And what happens after that, what happens on this lot and on this block, I think is a really big open question. And you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but this intersection 125 and Park Avenue has always been identified as a really critical intersection for this community. And it's also a really critical intersection for the MTA. And I think there's a lot of mutual interest in understanding what's going to happen at this intersection. That's all I got right now. I can dig deeper into this for the next month if you all want to give me a little bit more direction. But this is what I was able to put together in a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, my 2 cents on this one. Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, we are happy to, as you dig a little deeper into it, to put our heads together and bring our TOD folks and real estate folks to speak educatedly on it. With regard to the 125th and Lex, our park location, I mean, that entire area is something that we went through a very extensive visioning exercise with Uptown Grand Central, with the community board, with WEACT, with DOT, and there was a whole report that was put out, I want to say in like 23, 24, I think that report was put out, a visioning exercise.
But I don't think it was put out. I don't think it's not super public, right? Or is it public?
I mean, it was shared publicly. I don't know that it was, because I don't think it was ever.
Study,
Yeah.
I think we might have been disconnected.
I think so.
I think so.
I thought it was me.
Nope. No, I think we were disconnected.
Yeah, I thought it was me as well.
That probably means good night.
No, I have to say present.
Oh, that's right. You're the member. Oh,
I'm
man.
gonna text them.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go back in, probably.
Yeah, I think this meeting is frozen.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go back in, click back in.
At this point, we'll never leave this meeting. Let me try. Okay. Okay. So we should disconnect and connect, Rosa?
No,
You
stay
can-
here. We're still here. So just give me a minute. Just give me a minute.
Rosa, I don't know if we're gonna have to disconnect and reconnect. Because, I mean, I just don't think that this is, like, right now, I don't know what to do. But if
The
we don't go
internet
back
went
at the
out.
meeting. Huh?
The internet went out in the office.
So what does that mean? Do we disconnect or we stay on and just wait?
They're working on it.
I mean, I'm willing to stay on a little bit, but I'm at 15%, so I have to plug in my phone somewhere.
Go plug it in. I'll back you up.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. It seems that we have lost connection in the board office. Nilsa Orama and Rosa Diaz, myself, are here as member of Community Board 11. Our Charlie Olson, thank you so much. Attendees, Ines Guzman, just in case, I'm going to disconnect the meeting because the meeting has been adjourned. Just wanted to let everyone know. Meeting time is 9:04 p.m. Thank you so much, Nilsa and Charlie. See you later.
Thank you. Have a good night, all.
Night.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.